Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics video on the channel. Today we're going to be going through our top 30 midfielder rankings ahead of the 2025 AFL Fantasy season. This can help with both classic and draft formats. Obviously drafting, I'm ranking them in terms of probably where I'd take them, but then also in terms of classic, in terms of where I think they can score. It's sort of a mixture of sort of where I think they'll score, but also taking into account some potential DPP additions, particularly in the midfield, because I think there are a few players in this list that could gain another position at some point during the season. But we'll be discussing all that and all the players in the top 30 that I currently have. If you didn't check out our midfielder episode where we did a deep dive into plenty of midfielder options, check that out from Sunday night. That's obviously on the channel as well. And if you didn't check out our defender rankings video, that was last week as well. That's also up on the channel. But we'll go to our midfielder rankings. But you guys are smashing the thumbs up on the previous video and also the subscribers. So make sure you keep smashing the likes. It takes 2 seconds and it really, really helps the channel out. So if you can hit a like on there, that'd be fantastic. And also, we're less than 100 subscribers away from 3,000. We're nearly there. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. We got daily content throughout the season and plenty of content coming in the preseason as well. Plenty of discussion, really, it's got to be happening before the start of the season. So, but without further ado, let's get into our top 30 midfielder rankings for the season. So at M1, I've got Errol Goulden. So Errol Goulden there sitting for me, M1. We saw a lot at the back part of last year how good he was going for stretches, going at like that 115, 120 mark. Obviously had a couple of quieter games towards the end of the season. And obviously Sydney got a few questions in terms of what they're going to do. But I don't think Goulden's one of those questions. I think he's going to do what he needs to do. Bit hard to start him in Classic, being priced at 1.113 million and with an early buy. But the fact that if you got him in drafting, he's one of the top few you'd be taking, and I'd be happy taking him as the number one midfielder there. Again, a blanket could be thrown over these sort of top 8 to 10 midfielders because I think any of them could be the number one scoring player realistically. So, yeah, but Goulden for me, number one, I think he's got a lot of upside there still, and I think he's going to average 115 at some point, and it could even be this season. So I like Goulden at number one. Zach Merritt coming at number 2, and he's at number 2 purely for safety. He's a perennial 110 averaging midfielder. Obviously, 108.8 last year, but as we know, all the midfielders didn't do too great last year. He was the second highest averaging midfielder. Treloar was number 1, obviously averaging the 110, but Zach Merritt, 108.8. I just think he's going to be very good once again. There's also been talk in the preseason about some half-back time there, whether that's just to get some of these younger players in the preseason some midfield minutes and they don't really need to have Merritt in there, or if they're actually looking at putting him behind the ball. It'd be interesting to see, but I just think Merritt is safe. We're all going to want him in our Classic team at some point. Early buy for Classic means you're probably not starting him, but draft, again, I'd be happy to take him. I'd be happy to take him as the number one midfielder as well. There's certainly no arguments from me. If you decide to take Merritt over Goulden, I'd be happy enough with that. Number 3, probably a guy I bumped up a fair bit. I'm really bullish on him this year. Andrew Brayshaw, as you can see, currently in my Classic team as of recording. But 104.6 last year, a little bit down. They were playing around with his role a little bit last year, and he had a couple of niggles again. He had that the same the year before, but came home and averaged about that 110 marker there. I just think with Sarong going to be number 1 tag target moving forward. I think Young's potentially also ahead of Brayshaw, and then you could even make an argument for someone like a Bolton or someone like that could even be ahead. Probably not, but Brayshaw, I don't see him getting a lot of attention. And in Classic, they've got a really good early run as well based on last year's stats for Freo, which I like this run here. Sydney's the only tough one there, but Geelong, West Coast Bulldogs, Richmond, Melbourne, a great opening 6, and then even Adelaide, St Kilda, Collingwood isn't too bad either. So I like that opening run for Brayshaw. Nice value there, and even in draft, you might even be able to get him. If you've got sort of the back end of round 1, you may be able to take one of the other guys that you're keen on, then even get Brayshaw at M2, or even do it the other way, get Brayshaw and then get another really good mid. So, yeah, Brayshaw, I've got him M3. I'm quite bullish on what he can do this year. So, yeah, I've got him there. Number 4, I've got the Marcus Bontempelli at number 4. Again, a little bit similar to Merritt, just really safe. He's going to average, I would imagine, at least 105. Worst case, I think best case, he can obviously go at that 110 plus mark. He obviously averaged 117. Not this past year, gone in the year before in 2023. So he's got the ability to put a little bit on that. Classic could be an option to start with. I'm probably not quite going there. I don't love the fixture from rounds 3 to round 8. And even a few of these like Monica, Mars Stadium, TIO, not amazing. But Bont's Bont, and he can score anywhere. But I'm not sure about Classic. There could be a little bit of value, but I do like a couple of other names. But in draft, I'd be, again, happy enough to take him pretty early as well. And again, if someone wanted him as their M1, then that is definitely... I could not begrudge you for picking Bont there. Number 5, I've got Jordan Dawson. And in a world where he plays full-time mid, which I think he really should be as a Crows fan myself, he could be the M1 this year. And he could be the number 1 scoring player in the game. He's got the ability to do that. We've seen it in patches where he has played midfield. I believe it was Vams on Twitter said that in games where he has played at least 70% CBAs, he's averaged well over 115. I think it's like 116 or something like that. So he's going very, very well when he's playing full-time mid, but it's when he's not, when he's drifting forward, that's the question mark. And whether we're going to get those answers before round 1, like are they going to just run these other guys through there to get them some midfield minutes and leave Dawson to the real games is a possibility. So he's still in the mix for me to start in Classic. I'm just a little bit unsure if I'm going to get the answers there. If they come out and say Dawson, full-time mid, he's not going to be playing forward, then by all means, I'm very, very keen to start him in Classic. Draft, I'm still comfortable enough to pick him anyway. I still think he's going to be one of the top 8 mids. So I'd be happy enough to take him. And again, if someone decided to take him as the M1, a lot of these guys, I wouldn't begrudge you from doing that as well. And 4.11% as well is quite low in Classic. So low ownership as of recording now. Nick Dacos, number 6. I would have probably had him at maybe number 3, number 4, if it wasn't for this plantar fascia injury or plantar fasciitis. That could be one that's very, very lingering, which isn't great. He's going to be eased, I'm assuming, through up until the preseason games. Whether he plays the preseason games is another question. I don't really think there's much concern about him playing opening round or anything like that, but in terms of draft, I'm still comfortable to pick him, but just with this little preseason injury and the fact that it's an injury that could linger, that's the reason I bumped in down a couple. But again, if someone picked him as your M1, I'm not going to begrudge them for picking him. But in Classic as well, even if he wasn't injured or had an injury concern going into preseason, Classic near 1.1 million, early buy, I wouldn't be starting him. He's still 25.46% owned, but the early run, potential tag here. No real tag here, I don't think. But early buy, potential tag here, potential tag here, potential tag. Geelong, probably not. So I just don't like that opening run again. So, but yeah, with the injury, I think you're probably crossing him off a Classic. But draft's a little bit different. I bumped him down a couple of spots just because of that. But again, could be one of the top couple of scoring players and could be number 1 scoring player again. Number 7, got Jack Steele. I think with McRae coming in and also Philippou there, it gives him a little bit more help. I think that Jack Steele could improve on that 106.6 average with that help in there. Very low owning Classic as well, 1.22%. I've got him on the watch list for me. I'm not ruling out him at M1. It is an expensive price, so I'm not likely to go there, but I'm more keen on him than a few of the other options there. And in draft, he's very similar to like a Merritt and a Bont for me. I think a little bit lower, but just a safe guy. I think he's going to average 105 plus and be a pretty safe M1/M2 for you in draft. So I'll be pretty happy taking him in your sort of top few mids there. And I like him for another good season there as well. Moving at number 8, probably a bit harsh, probably having him at number 8, considering he's the number 1 scoring mid last year, is Adam Treloar. 110 average last year was fantastic. The only midfielder to average that mark, and he was the M1. I think Bont will increase in average, which means I think Treloar takes a slight decrease. I think Treloar maybe falls closer to 105, whether that's a 105 or if it's like a 106, 107, 108. I think Bont goes a little bit better. I think Treloar might take a slight backward step. But again, Treloar was very, very good last year. Everyone's obviously concerned with the injury history, but he played 22 games last year. Like the only game he missed was a very, very late withdrawal, and it was just calf awareness, I'm pretty sure it was. So didn't really have to get rested. But I'd be, again, pretty happy taking Treloar. Probably as an M2, I'd like. Back end of, if you've got like the late round 1 pick, maybe go Treloar and then you go one of the other mids and pair him with someone. But again, I'll be happy taking him as your M1 as well. I think Treloar is in for another good year. Tom Green is in at number 9, and he is someone as well that could easily go top 4, top 5. We saw it in the back part of the year where I think he averaged 108 there, and obviously he's averaged 108 for a full season as well. Obviously had that injured 7 last year, and then had that stretch of games where he didn't ton up, but then obviously got going in the back half of the year. Classic, good value, 17.51% current ownership, priced at 99.9. I think there's easily 6 points of upside here, and potentially could be up like 10 points. Obviously, the tricky thing is opening round and the early buy, and the fact that he's got Hawthorn in round 3. Connor Nash will go to him. He's done that a fair few times, and he hasn't got a good history against Hawthorn either. So, classic, interesting. Opening round could determine if we start him or not. If he goes 120 plus, then I think a lot of people will start him. But a draft as well, I'd be very happy starting him. And he's going to be a little bit lower down the order because of the 99.9 average. So, he's someone that... I'd be bumping up your draft board and making sure you're taking him in sort of the top 10 or so midfielders because, I think he'll be gone if you don't take him. At number 10, I've gone Tim Toranto. I think the market share here is going to be massive for Tim Toranto with struggling Richmond this year. I think he'll be clearly the number 1 midfielder there. 95.5 average, that's including a few injuries last year and some down form. But we did see in round 24 last year, he scored a 145 against Gold Coast, showing he still has a ceiling even in a struggling Richmond side. With some of the better players leaving, like your Dan Riolis, your Shea Boltons, Liam Bakers, players like that, I think Toronto will get a little bit more of a bump there. And he's not going to get tagged or anything like that. I don't think anyone would tag anyone from Richmond because I think they're going to struggle. But even still, you're not tagging Toronto. So I think he's going to have a good year. Classic, I'm a big fan of starting him. I think there's 10 points of upside here. And we've seen that he's got the ability to go 110 plus. But I think he can go around that 105 average there and be the number 1 scorer at Richmond this year. Currently 10% owned in Classic as well, which is good. And then in draft as well, probably an M2 for me if you can get him there. But again, depending where you're drafting him, maybe you got to take him a little bit early if you're quite bullish. I'm quite bullish, so I'd be happy enough if you've got a late pick. But then again, M10, you're probably looking at as an M2 anyway because you factor in the rucks and you factor in a Sheasel and how early does a Bailey Smith go? That's obviously dependent on how you're drafting, and obviously Gawn as well with the top 2 rucks. So it's going to be interesting to see what drafts could go a lot of different ways this year. But Toronto, you're probably going to get him as an M2 anyway there. So I'd be happy taking him here. Number 11, Josh Dunkley. So dropped him down a little bit. I just think with the fact that Will Ashcroft, how good he looked in the grand final. Obviously, Norman Smith, he'll take a bump up. Lockie Neal's still there. Obviously, Hugh McCluggage is still there. So there's a few guys there. So whether he averages 107.4, maybe slightly down, maybe close to 105. He could even go lower, depending on how much of a bump Will Ashcroft gets. And obviously, Levi Ashcroft, another one that's going to be getting some CBAs if he's in the team, I would imagine. So Dunkley's still solid, M2. I'd be happy to take him there. And he's got the ability as well to average close to that 110, if not more. So he's a guy that's pretty safe as an M2, but also got the upside. But maybe he's taken a bit early because of that. He's going to be up the list in draft, and someone might just go, Dunkley was good last year and take him. So maybe you're not going to be able to get him at the range that I'd probably rank him. And in Classic as well, early buy. So that's why I wouldn't be starting him. I don't think he's any value to be starting. Sam Walsh is coming in at number 12. Bumped him down a little bit. He was closer towards that top 8 mark, but with this hamstring injury, I bumped him down. But I still think he'll have a good year. 106.1 average last year. But last few seasons, he's had injuries in the preseason. Was hoping this would be the preseason. He didn't, but he's obviously got the hamstring. So I think Classic, I don't think you can start him. I know he's got Richmond round 1. And he's got some good matchups as well early, like the Bulldogs, Collingwood, West Coast North, Geelong, like great matchups besides the Hawthorn game. But I just think with the hamstring, it's just you don't want your M1 or M2 in Classic having any issues. You want them sort of nailed on. You know what they're going to do. Captain option every week. Walsh a captain option, but I just don't think. I think with this injury, it's a bit risky. But draft, you can probably get him as an M2, and I'd be pretty happy with that as well if you can get him there. Moving to number 13, I've got Zack Butters. Just going to be interesting to see how Port's midfield goes with Connor Rozee, Jason Horne-Francis, obviously Butters himself, Willem Drew, Ollie Wines. How's it all going to mix up? Butters is probably the guy that's the main one for attention. So I think that 106 is probably roughly where he could go. He might even go a little bit lower if he gets a lot more attention and maybe a Rozee takes that 106, 107 bump. Obviously, Rozee had a couple of injury-affected games last year. So Butters... still solid though. Could be around that M2 marker in a standard sort of 10-team league or anything like that. So I'd be happy to take him there. Classic, not enough value there for me, so I wouldn't be looking at him as a starting option there. Noah Anderson at number 14. The early buy sucks a little bit because he is a smoky in Classic, and even in draft, he could be a really good M2 with high upside here. He averages, I think Calvin, that was saying, 119 in wins. Which is absolutely crazy. He averages in the 90s, in the low 90s when they lose. Everyone just expects Gold Coast. And I agree. I think Gold Coast will take another step up this year. A few good additions, like Dan Rioli and even a John Noble of half back and guys like that in the team now. Obviously, a few of the younger guys, another preseason older, another preseason in the book. So I think he'll go quite well. The opening round, as I said, does suck because he could have been a smoky to start in Classic. I wouldn't have started him, but someone out there might have. And with he's got a decent early fixture. Like he's got West Coast, Melbourne, Adelaide, North Melbourne, Richmond. It's a pretty good opening sort of 6 rounds to start. The early buy does suck, and I think if Gold Coast are going to take more wins, that average will go up. And I think he'll average 105 plus this year. And he's got the ability, if they win a lot more games, could even average close to that 110 mark and even go a little bit more, as we've seen. So, yep, Anderson's a smoky guy that I like and a high upside player as your M2 if you're looking for something like that there. As I said, Classic, just can't start him. Caleb Sarong at number 15, just a safe guy, I think. I don't see him going a lot more than a 105. He doesn't have a lot of transition scoring, as Jaiden chatted about on Sunday night. He does a lot of stoppage, and he's really safe with stoppage. So I don't think you're ever really going to get a 60 or a 50 score from Sarong. I think he's safe for 75, 80 most weeks, even with attention. And I think he's pretty safe 90, 95 plus every week. Classic, I don't think there's value. I'd prefer Brayshaw, who's not that much more. I think he's 11k more expensive. I don't think there's enough value. If you think Sarong can put up these transition points and go close to that 110, then he is value. But I just don't know if he's going to put that much on his price. He could go 105, 106, but I think he's around that 103, 104, 105 mark. So I think he's fairly priced in Classic. Draft, I'd be happy enough to take him. He's a pretty safe play to take him there, and I've got him at number 15. Number 16, I've got Connor Rozee. Obviously, poor year last year, obviously with a couple of injuries there. Obviously, that injury against St Kilda, where he was on 89 midway through the third quarter, and then he played the showdown. He got a 50-odd, he got subbed out. He shouldn't have played. I like this playing Classic. Price at 97, 996k, I think is a good price. I think he can put 8 points on that. I think he can go 105. He could go 106, 107, but just with Butters, Horne-Francis, and obviously Drew and Wines there, I don't think he's got the ceiling to go 110 average. He can average 110 over a month or two, but I don't know for a season long if he's going to average 110. Because if he's averaging 110 for a couple of months, he's then going to be the guy that probably gets the attention. So I think that he's more like, that 103 to 106 sort of player. But yeah, I think Classic, solid starting pick at value. He's got a good early run as well, good sort of opening month, but then it gets a bit trickier with Hawthorn, Sydney. North Melbourne is okay, Bulldogs, Crows, Geelong. So it's good to start, a little bit trickier, then it goes a bit better. So yeah, definitely a guy to consider in Classic and draft as well. I'm pretty happy with him there. Number 17, I'm going down the list in terms of price in Classic. So we'll load the players up here. This is one that could either go, I've put him in the middle because he could either go one or two ways. So Clayton Oliver is at number 17, ahead of a few players that you probably put ahead of him normally. But Classic, I think, if he's looking good pre-season, I think he's a lock. Price at 77.7, I just think if he's even 95 is a good pick. If he averages over 100, it's a great pick. And obviously, if he goes 105, 110 and becomes a one of those quote-unquote keepers or guys that's in luxury trade season. I think it's obviously one of those knockout picks. A lot of people are on it already, 42.21%. But in draft, it's an interesting play. The reason, and again, my rankings are a mixture of classic and draft. So if it was draft rankings, he wouldn't be this high. He'd be lower because some of the guys below him are safer. I've put him up because he's relevant in classic, and I'm bullish that he does get back to 100 plus. He's been training full preseason. I think that last year, he had no preseason, essentially. There was a lot of stuff going off the field for him. He had injuries as well. He dealt with a hand injury. I don't know if he had like a knee injury or something like that at some point as well, but I know it's definitely a hand injury. And Melbourne as a whole just weren't great. They were really poor last year. I don't think Melbourne can be as poor again. And if they are, then that's going to be really bad. And then you might even see like an Oliver and Petrarca try and leave again, potentially at the end of next season. But I just think that he can get back to at least 100 plus. I'm bullish that he goes 105, 110. 110, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to go 110. I'm not bullish he goes 110. I probably should have said I'm bullish he goes around that 105 mark. If he goes 110, he's got the ability to, and in a world he can. But whether he can do it, another question. In a struggling Melbourne side, is he going to be as good as what he was before last year? That's the question. But I think Classic is a really good pick, and as long as he's looking good in preseason, I think we pick him. Draft, you're probably not picking him at 17. You're probably bumping him down a bit, but he could be a guy that does go into the top 12, top 10 midfielders. We've seen it before. So, yeah, he's a very interesting play this year, Clayton Oliver. We'll go back up the draft board here. Not draft board. Go back up the price, and we'll go to Ollie Neil at number 18. Bit like Sarong, really safe. You know what you're going to get from him. You're going to get 100 plus average. He's got the ability to go 105 and even go a little bit more than that. He's going to get lower games at times. He's going to get tagged. He's going to get you maybe. The only thing that's him compared to Sarong, why I've got him lower than Sarong, is that he can put up those floor scores like the 60s and the 70s, but he can also put up the 130s. Whereas Sarong goes more like your 80 plus, but he doesn't have many scores over 120. So it's sort of, what do you want? Do you want a guy that can go like maybe captain's on? Do you go for a Ollie Neil as a captain option potentially week to week, or do you go for a Sarong? It's an interesting sort of debate between the two. I've got Sarong just ahead, but Ollie Neil as well could be someone you take. And these guys as well are all around the same sort of, they're going to be around the same partner draft, and I'd be happy taking a lot of these guys, and Ollie Neil is pretty safe as well. So, he is at number 19. Early buy for him rules him out in classic for me, but he has potentially 4, 5, 6 points of upside if everything was to go to plan. So, but yeah, with the early buy, I just can't do it, I don't think. Number 19, we'll go down a little bit here. We'll go to Darcy Parish. So classic priced at 92. If it wasn't for that early buy, I'd be a little bit more bullish on Parish as a pick, but the early buy does just sort of halt that a little bit. The fact he's also got Hawthorn in round 1 isn't great. Tough matchup to start, and then the Crows, Port. That's a tough sort of 3 matches to get the year going. Then the early buy opens up though. He's got Melbourne, West Coast, Collingwood, North Melbourne. So I like that month after. So if he looks good in these first 3 weeks, he's still going to be fairly cheap, I think, around this time here. You could jump on after his early buying classic. So I'll be happy to do that. Draft, he's going to be, you might be able to get him a bit cheaper because it's going to be the 91.6. A few people might be scared off with a few soft tissues last couple of years. So you might be able to get him a little bit more of a bargain. It might be a slider. So I don't mind Parish there. I've currently got him at number 19. I got Isaac Heeney at number 20. Again, probably a little bit of disrespect about how good his year was last year. Probably could... where's Heeney? There he is. Could have been bumped up more. 105 average last year from 21 games. I just see that year from Heeney being a career year. I don't really see him playing much better than what he did last year. He was fantastic last year. So I don't think there's any value in classic. He's got an early buy. I wouldn't be starting him. Draft as well. I think he's just going to get taken too early. I think people are going to see that 105 average and go, I'm going to get a 105 player. I'm going to take him ahead of some of these guys that are a bit probably cheaper in draft. So you're probably not going to get him. If he does slide because he lost forward status and people are a bit hesitant to take him, then maybe you might be able to get him. But I think most draft people are going to take him a bit early for probably what you're looking at. So a little bit tricky there, but I've got him at number 20. Chris Petrarca, is at number 21. And again, he's got the ability to rise a little bit like Oliver. He could rise up to top sort of 12. We know he can average 105. We've seen it before, or around that 105 marker anyway. He's again going to be a draft slider priced at 90. He has got the potential, if he was to pick up forward status, would then vault him. Like if he had forward status like in the draft, where would he go? That's the question. Like let me know. Actually, let me know in the comments. If Petrarca had forward status, where would he go in drafts? Because I think he'd comfortably be top 3 around top. So he'd be gone within the first 3 rounds, I think. And we're talking about Bailey Smith would be sort of an earlier pick. I think Petrarca would be around that mix as well. I think he would be in the mix for a number 1 forward. But again, I'm just talking sort of potential. But I don't know if he'll get forward status. But 923 Kane Classic. He's back in full training, which is good. So I'm not as concerned as what I was. I want to watch in the preseason to see what role he's got. If he's playing full-time mid, I'd be a bit more interested there. If he's playing a mix of mid-forward like he was before the injury last year, I don't know if there's a little bit of upside, but I think there are players around his price or a little bit cheaper, a bit more expensive that have got probably the same, if not more upside than a Petrarca. So really role dependent, but I don't mind Petrarca there at 21 for the rankings. So these are back-to-back rankings, 22 and 23. These two players could, I think, are not locked on to get different positions, but number 22, where is he? He's currently sitting in my classic team. Sam Doherty got number 22. Obviously, he's going to be a real slider because he'll have a 48 next to his name in draft, so you might be able to get him at a steal. With Nick Newman going down, obviously ruptured patella, which sucks for Nick Newman. Had him obviously top sort of 10 defender in the rankings last week. I think Doherty plays half back. I think that I can't see them just going, Ollie Hollands, you throw him in the deep end, you go. Carlton are trying to win a premiership. They're trying to finish top 4, win a premiership. They got the team. They got a few older players. They sort of need to start really getting it going now. I think Doherty's almost like you think obviously the saying, obviously trying to fit a square into a square peg into a round hole. I think that Doherty is a round hole. So round peg into a round hole. Anyway, really bad metaphor there. I think Doherty fits straight into it. Like he's a mature head back there, can go back. He's done it in the past. He's done it really well as well. He's been I'm pretty sure all Australian as well. And obviously averaged well over 100 in the past, and he's obviously averaged over 110 for us. I don't think he's going to average over 110, but I think 100 plus average if he's got this half back row is on the cards. So if that's the case, I think in the classic, priced in the mid 70s, I think he's a great, fantastic pick. In draft as well, he's going to be a slider. If he's playing half back, he's going to get defender status. If he's averaging over 100 and as a defender, he would be a potential top 6 to 8 defender, and he's got the ability. In a world, I would not be shocked if Doherty averages 105 plus and is the top sort of 3 or 4 defender. Is it likely? Probably not. But in a world, it could happen if he played full-time half-back. So someone to keep tabs on as the draft sort of the rounds keep going, and you might be able to get him a bit of a steal. So I like Doc in both classic and in draft. And the other thing I like about Doc as well is the fact of this early run that they've got in Classic. This is obviously for Classic purposes as well. In fact, he's got Richmond, Hawthorn, not great, but then Bulldogs, as my computer's not quite loading. Here we go. No, I don't want venue stats. I want fixture stats. I don't know why this is playing silly buggers on me at the moment. May we'll have to click out of Doc and maybe click back in if this works. If it doesn't work, use some word for he's got a good early run. Is it going to work here? Oh, here it's working a little bit, but not great. Oh, here we go. Richmond, Hawthorn, not great. Bulldogs, Collingwood, West Coast, North Melbourne, Geelong. It's pretty good first 7 weeks there. Especially if he's playing half-back. So, yeah, I like Doc in Classic. I like Doc as a draft slider, and I'd be picking him up if you can get to him. It would not be a video without this man being mentioned. And there is a very, very high chance he gets defender status. And is my boy, is Rory Lairdy. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes on in draft. And he could be bumped up this list as well. I've got him down a little bit, probably lower. Like, if it was me, it'd probably be a top 10. But Roy Laird, 99.3 average last year. Obviously, a little bit of a down year for him and the Crows. I think he plays half-back like he did at the back part of the year. He's obviously averaged over 100 multiple times in his half-back role. I think he'll be a top 10 defender when he gets defender status. So I like picking him a little bit later because people are probably not quite going to look at Lairdy. But I think getting defender status, if you're picking defenders, like you're going to be picking guys like Jack Sinclair and Max Holmes. I'm trying to think of like defenders that are priced like around that 100 mark. A lot of the defenders priced around the 100 mark. Lairdy's probably might even go around that mark in defense. I think he's a 95 plus defender, and I think he's a potential draft sleeper as a guy that's going to get defender status. A few people that picked up with guys like Nick Martin, Max Holmes, guys like that last year. Obviously, they were probably a bit cheaper in draft, and you probably could get them a bit later because they were cheaper in classic. People probably didn't look at him as a premium, whereas Laird's been a midfield and defender premium. He might not be as cheap, but I like him. If you stack your midfield early, go a little bit lighter in defence, and then you may pick Laird in your midfield, anticipating he's going to get defender status. So I like him in draft. Classic, we just wait till he gets defender status, and then we can hopefully all jump on, and hopefully he's a top sort of 6 to 8 defender. I'm going for another Crow here, Matt Crouch. 102 average, and again, he's got the ability to average 105. We've seen it before. With Dawson there, with a few other guys, I don't think he's going to go 105. I think 101.9 is probably his ceiling now. I think he's more around that 98 to 102. I think that's probably around where he goes. I reckon, I've just guessed I've put him down the order a little bit just because a few younger guys coming through. We have seen Crouch dropped at times. I don't think his position's safe. I think he'll start the year and he's earned his spot back in the team. I really actually hope that he keeps his spot. But looking at it from a fantasy point of view, we've seen him drop before. It's going to be maybe a bit cautious that it could happen again. So maybe you get him at a cheaper price in draft. Maybe people are scared off by that. But I think he'll be solid enough as an M3 for you. And you can pick him up hopefully later in draft. But someone might snap him up a bit earlier. So you might not have a go at him there. Chad Warner. So a few of these guys really aren't. Most of these guys aren't as classic relevant. They're more draft relevant, but could be guys with upside. But Chad Warner, I've got at number 25. Obviously, a lot of rumours going around. Obviously, he could be on the way over back to Perth at the end of the year. Obviously, so contract year, really. He's going to sign a new contract at Sydney, or he's going to sign a contract over in Western Australia. So contract year, obviously, players can perform quite well in those contract years. 23, coming into his prime now as well, sort of early prime years. I think that average could bump up to 95 plus, could close in on that 100 mark. So it could be a little bit of value there. And if you think that he could go 100 or even over 100, then and you're quite bullish, I think you could take him and he could have some upside. So I don't mind Chad Warner, early buy in classic, and I probably wouldn't be picking him anyway. As I said, I wouldn't pick probably many of these players. Jai Codwell is probably the one in classic that is a tiny bit tempting. Just if Merritt is playing off half back, you could have a look. The early buy, though, is the thing that probably kills it. So probably not. But 94.3 average, obviously came home fantastic last year playing in that midfield. Has lost forward status, so you might be able to get him a bit cheaper because a few people might not look at him as such and will draft other players and go to other positions. So could be a solid sort of player to go to round out your midfield, M4, M5, around that sort of mark there. But yeah, Caldwell, I think will be solid. And again, has got the ability to go, obviously, over 100. We saw it for a big period of last year as well. So, yep, he's there. I've got Hugh McCluggage at number 27. I just think with all the guys around him, he's a guy for me, a little bit like Neil, but probably can put up even lower scores. Obviously, a lower score of 51 last year, high score 132. He's very much a yo-yo, can go real up and down depending on what role he's playing. I just think with Dunkley, Lockie Neal, Will Ashcroft, himself, Levi Ashcroft, does Berry get midfield minutes? Cam Rayner won't just go out away there. So I don't know if he's going to do much more than the 97. He might go 100, but that's probably the limit there. If he's a full-time midfielder, it'd be different. But he does play on the wing at times and mix it between wing and midfield. He's not a Goulden. He's not going to rack up week in, week out. So, but again, draft, safe. I think you know what you're going to get from Hugh McCluggage when you get him. So if you want to take him, then that is certainly a fine pick. Paddy Crips as well. Same sort of mould there. Can put up a few lower scores, but obviously had the best year apparently ever with all the Brownlow votes last year. But he's fairly safe most weeks. A little bit like Lockie Neil in a way as well. So I think he'll go a little bit earlier than where I've got him ranked at 28. And really probably a bit disrespectful to be fair. But we have seen some players after a Brownlow year sort of fall back a bit. If Walsh is going to take the step up, if Chera's fit and firing and may take some more responsibility, where's Hewitt in this mix as well? Does a Jagger Smith? How does he go? So maybe Crips stays around what he's priced at sort of the 100 mark or goes a tiny bit lower. I don't see a huge amount of upside, obviously, in Classic and Draft as well. It depends where he goes. But these guys, you can throw a blanket over. This is sort of just where I've got them ranked. But you could flip anyone around and I wouldn't sort of really have too many grudges towards you if you did that. 29, I've got LDU. Again, not classic pick. We've done it before. It just hasn't quite got it done for us. I think he's around that 95 to 100 player. I think he's more super coach player. I don't think he's going to ever average 105 plus in fantasy. Like he could. I just don't know if I see it, especially with the likes of Sheasel and even McKercher as well off half back. A few other guys are going to average a lot more. Cherry as well. I don't think there's room for LDU to go 105 unless Sheasel takes a big decline to like closer to 100 or someone else takes a decline. I just don't know if he's going to go 105 plus. So, but again, safe enough. Someone around at your midfield or an M4, somewhere around there. You might be able to get LDU. Maybe M3, depending on sort of where you take him as well. But yeah, depending on how shallow your draft is, probably more likely an M3 for a few people. And then Toot Miller rounds out the 30. Josh Kelly was probably the unlucky one to just miss out on the top 30, but I went for Toot Miller there, 93. I think there's a little bit of upside there. In Classic, if it wasn't for the early buy, could be someone of interest, but with the early buy, I think that kills it, especially with the round 2 buy. Round 4 buy could have been interesting. If you went massive in opening round, you could ride him for a few weeks, get some cash gen, and then jump off. But with that early round 2 buy, Classic, I wouldn't be looking at it. Draft, he's got the ability to average 100. Like, he's done it before, obviously a few times now. I just think with obviously Anderson now there, Rao, Flanders will play in the midfield as well. A few other guys will roll through there. So the 110 plus, I think, for Tuca are not going to be there anymore. 100 to 105 average is feasible, but I see him more as a 98, 99, 100 averaging player. Maybe even a 95 if the other guys all go massive and Tuke's just more of a role player in the midfield. But you could get him at a bit of value here at price at 93 if he were to go 95 plus in draft. But yeah, as I say, Classic, probably not quite looking at it. But yeah, like Hayden Young, could be unlucky to miss out. Matt Rao, does he get even more transition points? I'm not sure. And obviously there's a few other guys on this list here, like a John Newcomb could go big. I just didn't put him quite on the list at the moment because I just want to see how him and Will Day go. Obviously Will Day's another one. A few guys probably are unlucky to miss the list. Stephen Cornelio, if he goes back to his high scoring ways, could easily go 95 plus. Finn Callahan, when's the breakout going to happen? He could go well. As I said, Will Day's there as well. A few players like Adam Chera, I've got him in Classic at the moment in my current team, but he's a guy that could easily make his way out. But again, if he's fit and firing, could go 95 and even a tiny bit more. We've seen it in patches from him. So, and he's got the junior pedigree. I think he averaged more than like your Dacos and Brayshaw in his junior year. So could be someone there. But they're my top 30 rankings for the midfielders. Sort of a rough guide of what I've done. Haven't put a little bit of effort in, but I didn't go like full sort of like complete stats breakdown. This is sort of just where I feel with how it would go. So yeah, that'll do us for the video. But if you did enjoy the video, as always, please leave a 5-star rating review. That's for the podcast. Please smash a like on the video. That'd be very much appreciated. If we can get a few likes on the video, that'd be fantastic. Make sure you also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're near 3,000 subscribers. So if you can help us get there, that would be very much appreciated. And yeah, if you've got any thoughts on the list, leave in the comments below. And let me know what you thought of the rankings and stuff like that, and what you thought of the top 30. Would you change anything? Did I miss anyone that you thought should be in there? Comment below and let me know. And if you've got any other questions, leave them there, or head over to askmeonq.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Links at the top of the description of the video. You can ask all your questions there as well, and it does help support the channel at the same time if you would like to go the extra bit further to do that. And we appreciate anyone that uses that there. But yeah, I'll be back on Thursday having a chat with Holmesy around opening round strategy. Really good discussion there. So if you guys want to tune into that, get ready for that, and make sure you guys tune in there. As I said, like, subscribe, do all the good stuff, and we'll catch you guys on Thursday. And then obviously Sunday we have our Ruck episode, so looking forward to that one as well. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys next video. So I'm out. Cheers.